I never thought I'd be the kind of man who gets a text like that. I'm on an intimacy strike. No conversation. No context. Just that. Like sex was a faucet she could shut off whenever she felt like it. And I'd be expected to stay standing there, hands open, waiting for her to turn it back on. I'm Rodrigo, 38, entrepreneur, calm by nature, not a fan of shouting, and not built for games. I've always believed that a man's strength shows most in how quiet he can be when everything around him is trying to provoke a reaction. And this wasn't going to be any different. Let me give you a bit of context first. I met Amanda 5 years ago. She worked in PR, sharp and polished. The kind of woman who commands a room without raising her voice. That's what drew me to her. She wasn't the loudest, but she had presence. I respected that. I value a woman who holds her own, but more importantly, I value peace. And Amanda? In the beginning, she gave me that. We dated for about 1.5 years before moving in together. I was already established in my career. I ran a logistics firm with steady contracts, healthy margins, and a small but efficient team. I had my own place, modern, organized, not flashy. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Just live well, within my means, and with standards. Amanda was still figuring herself out. She didn't love her job, wanted to pivot into coaching or content creation. She wasn't sure. I encouraged it, told her I'd take care of the bills for a while so she could focus on building something of her own. That's what you do when you're building with someone. You create space for them to grow. At first, she was grateful, made dinner, hugged me when I got home, left notes on the bathroom mirror, told me she admired my discipline, my focus, said it felt safe being with someone who wasn't running from himself. But then something shifted, slow, subtle, like a slow leak under the floorboards you don't notice until the wood caves in. She started pulling away. Less touch, less eye contact. Conversations became short. I'd ask how her day was and get a one-word reply. I chalked it up to stress. Everyone hits rough patches. I stayed steady. I'd wake up early, make her coffee, check in during the day. I thought consistency would eventually recenter her. But instead, the distance grew. Then came that message. It was a Tuesday night. I was working in my home office, finishing up some invoices. Around 10 p.m., I got a ping on my phone. Amanda, I'm on an intimacy strike. Don't expect anything until further notice. That was it. I stared at it, waited for a follow-up. Nothing. So I got up, walked into the living room where she was curled up on the couch watching something on Netflix, blanket over her legs, phone in hand. I asked, "You sent this?" She didn't even pause the show, just replied, "Yeah." "What?" She shrugged. "I'm just not in the mood lately. And honestly, I feel like you take me for granted. Maybe this will reset things a bit." I stood there in silence. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I've learned that in relationships, your power is in how you respond when you're being tested. And this was a test. A game. A move to see what I'd do. I nodded once, turned around, and went back to my office. She wanted a reaction. I gave her none. That night, I didn't touch her in bed. Didn't say goodnight. Just lay down, closed my eyes, and stared at the ceiling, not angry, just clear. You see, there's a kind of clarity that only comes when someone shows you exactly who they are. When someone turns love into leverage. When someone weaponizes connection to control you. The next few days, I stayed silent. I still paid every bill. Still cooked. Still made sure the house ran smoothly. But I didn't engage. No small talk. No touch. No checking in. I became polite. Formal. Like a guest in my own home. And Amanda? She acted like nothing had changed. Went about her day. Took long showers. Left makeup on the bathroom counter. Came home for brunches with new shopping bags. And every night, climbed into bed, turned her back to me, and scrolled until she fell asleep. It wasn't just about sex anymore. It was about value. I was giving everything, structure, peace, provision, and in return, I was getting silence. Conditions. Emotional absence dressed up as boundaries. That's when I made a quiet decision. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to match her energy. I opened a private checking account, rerouted my direct deposits, canceled our shared streaming services, set limits on her card, kept groceries and essentials flowing, but the luxury spending? That stopped. I didn't say a word, just moved differently. The following week, she tried to buy one of her expensive monthly skincare subscriptions, declined. Next day, her boutique gym sent an alert, payment failed. On Friday, she tried ordering sushi for lunch, blocked. That night, she finally asked, "Hey, did the card stop working?" I looked up from my laptop. "No, I just adjusted our arrangement." What does that mean? Well, since intimacy is conditional now, I figured the benefits can be too. I'm on a financial strike until further notice. She blinked, confused, then defensive. Are you serious? As serious as your message. Her jaw tightened. You're punishing me for setting a boundary? No, I'm respecting it. You set your terms. I'm setting mine. She stormed off that night. But I stayed calm. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her affection bought through manipulation. What I needed was mutual respect. And if she couldn't give that, I wasn't about to keep pouring energy into a one-sided arrangement. That was the moment she realized something she had forgotten. I didn't stay because I couldn't leave. I stayed because I believed we were building something. But when the construction stops, the funding does too. And that was just the beginning. A funny thing happens when you stop giving someone everything they took for granted. They panic. It didn't take long after I cut the extras for Amanda to notice. And to be clear, I didn't shut off the essentials. The mortgage was still paid. The fridge was stocked. The lights stayed on. I'm not petty. I'm principled. But the luxuries? The perks? The things she assumed would just keep coming while she waged her little intimacy strike. Those were gone. It started with small things. A blocked gym payment. A denied sushi order. Then came the missed delivery from that boutique wellness store she ordered from monthly, $190 worth of supplements and skincare nonsense. I knew the moment she got the payment failed email because she stomped into my office holding her phone like it was a smoking gun. "Rodrigo, did you cancel my card?" I looked up calmly. "Nope. I just moved our finances into a system that matches the energy you're giving me." She blinked. "Excuse me, you said you were on strike?" I replied, setting down my pen. "So am I." Her eyes narrowed. "So you're punishing me for not wanting sex?" I shook my head. "No, I'm responding to you turning affection into a negotiation tactic. You want partnership benefits? Then we operate like partners. Otherwise, you do your thing, and I do mine." She scoffed and walked out without another word. But the seed had been planted, and it grew fast. That night, she made dinner for the first time in 2 months. Pasta, garlic bread, even set the table with candles like she used to when we first moved in together. I didn't comment on it. I sat, ate, thanked her, and cleaned up afterward without any sarcastic remarks or expectations. I could feel her watching me, measuring my reactions, waiting for a cue that I was coming back to her terms. She didn't get one. Over the next few days, Amanda started acting noticeably different. Softer tone, casual touches on the shoulder, asking how my day was, offering to do the groceries. Even started wearing perfume again, not for her own vibe, but the kind she used to wear when we went on dates. But I knew what it was. It wasn't love. It was strategy. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me who paid without question, solved everything, and asked for nothing but mutual respect. By day 4, the act cracked. We were watching a show, or pretending to. She muted the TV and said, "I've been thinking maybe it's time to end the strike." I turned my head slowly. "Strike?" She gave a sheepish smile. "Yeah, I guess I was just frustrated. But I miss you, and I think we've both made our point." I stared at her for a beat, then 2, and said nothing. Her smile faded a little. "You don't have anything to say?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Let me ask you something," I said. "Did it ever occur to you that I might not be interested anymore?" She blinked. "What?" "I mean, you flipped a switch on intimacy like it was a faucet. No discussion. No context. Just, I'm on strike. And now you want to flip it back like nothing happened." Her mouth opened, then closed. I kept going. "I didn't stop caring because you rejected me. I stopped caring because you weaponized something sacred. You tried to control me through absence, assuming I'd beg, crawl, or prove myself worthy of affection." "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered. "You meant exactly that," I said firmly. You wanted to feel powerful. You thought I'd just keep pouring energy, money, time, while getting nothing in return. And now that I've mirrored your energy, you're realizing that power game has a cost. She stood up, arms crossed. So what now? You're done with me? I'm done with being manipulated. I'm done rewarding disrespect. If you want something real again, it won't come from sex. It'll come from honesty, accountability, effort. She sat back down, visibly shaken. I thought we were stronger than this, she said quietly. We were, until you decided to test that strength with conditions. We didn't talk much the rest of the evening. She went to bed early. I stayed up late, reading on the balcony, listening to the quiet. And in that quiet, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: control. Not over her, but over myself. She tried again the next day. Breakfast in bed, soft apologies, subtle flirtation. That night, she stood at the bedroom door in one of those lace nightgowns she hadn't worn since the honeymoon phase. I looked up from my book. I'm not in the mood. Her expression collapsed instantly. Are you serious? As serious as you were when you said don't expect anything. She started to cry, and I sat there, calm, grounded, watching her finally feel what I had been carrying silently for weeks. I'm trying, she whispered. And I'm listening, I replied. But I'm not rushing. Respect doesn't come back just because you snap your fingers. She walked away that night, slamming the door behind her. And for the first time, I didn't follow. Because when a man truly detaches, it's not loud. It's quiet, cold, complete. She had set the rules. And now, she was living in the result of her own design. And deep down, she knew it. There comes a moment when even if everything is fixed, you don't want it anymore. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you finally understand your own worth, and you're done offering it to someone who only woke up after losing access to it. That's where I was. After Amanda tried to end the strike, after the makeup attempts, the emotional manipulation, the lace nightgown routine, I stayed exactly where I was. Calm, detached, not out of coldness, but clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. The next few days, I watched her unravel. She went from playful and seductive to anxious and irritable, from soft apologies to guilt-tripping. Then came the gaslighting. Why are you still holding this over my head? I said I was sorry. You're punishing me more than I deserve. I didn't entertain any of it, because this wasn't about punishment. It was about pattern. She wanted to act like her strike with some small lapse. A bad mood, a heat-of-the-moment decision. But for me, it wasn't about the act itself. It was about the message behind it. She turned off emotional and physical connection like flipping a light switch. No warning, no discussion, just, you're not getting this anymore. And now, because I wasn't jumping at the chance to return, she wanted to reframe the entire situation as if I was being petty. But I wasn't stuck on the past. I had simply outgrown the cycle. A few days later, she finally broke. We were sitting at the dining table. I was having coffee. She was pretending to scroll her phone. And then, out of nowhere, she slammed it down and said, "You're not even trying." I looked up slowly. Trying what? To move past this. To fix us. I nodded, took a sip of coffee, then said, I did try. For months. Before you ever typed that message. Before the strike. I tried every day you ignored me. Every time I reached out and got nothing. Every night you turned away without a word. I tried then. She went quiet. So I continued. But when someone slams the door, they can't be surprised it doesn't reopen on their schedule. That's not how respect works. Tears welled up in her eyes. So that's it? You're just done? I put the cup down, looked her directly in the eyes. I was done the moment I realized you were more interested in control than connection. The moment I saw you weren't trying to fix anything. You were trying to win something. She started crying. Softly at first, then full on. I miss you, she whispered. I miss us. And I believe her. I believe that in that moment, she really did feel the loss. But love that only shows up when the comfort is gone isn't love. It's fear. She wasn't missing me. She was missing the version of herself that had total access to a man who never asked for anything in return. And now that I was no longer available, she realized how much she had relied on the idea that I'd always be there. I stood up and walked to the window, looked out at the street, people walking, cars passing, a normal afternoon. Then I said, Amanda, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to hurt you. But I'm not interested in rebuilding something that you chose to burn. She wiped her face with her sleeve. People make mistakes, Rodrigo. They do, I nodded. But not everyone gets to come back from them. Especially when the mistake was a calculated move disguised as a boundary. Silence. I could feel her cracking again. That desperation, that realization that no amount of effort now could undo the quiet damage she caused day after day by withdrawing everything and expecting everything in return. She walked toward me, tried to hold my hand. I stepped back gently. No, I said, calm but final. She froze. I'm not your enemy, she whispered. I know, I replied. But you're also not my partner. Those words hit hard. She closed her eyes and exhaled like someone absorbing a shot they didn't see coming. I don't even know who I am without you, she said, barely audible. And right there, I understood. That's why she was trying so hard to restore things. Not because of love, but because I was her mirror. And now that I was no longer reflecting admiration, attention, resources, and presence, she was facing herself alone. I picked up my keys and walked to the door. She stood there, still in disbelief. Where are you going? To take a walk. To think. To breathe. Will you come back? I looked at her, and this time there was no tension in my chest. No sadness. Just a quiet truth. I don't know. But if I do, it won't be for what we had. It'll have to be for something brand new, with someone who doesn't weaponize love. And I walked out. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. We talked. He listened. We laughed about old stories. Ate takeout. It felt normal. Light. And I realized this was what I'd been missing. Not friendship, but peace. Clarity. Feeling like I wasn't being watched, measured, or manipulated. Amanda kept calling. I didn't pick up. She texted long paragraphs, guilt, apologies, memories. I didn't reply, not to be cruel, but because I didn't want to go back into a cage I had already freed myself from. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't miss her. I missed who I used to be before I forgot how to say no. And now I say with pride, you don't get to pause love and press play again when it suits you. Some things once broken stay broken, not out of hate, but out of growth. And I grew. Without her. And I'm not looking back. I don't expect fireworks on my birthday. I've never been the guy who needs big gestures, surprise parties, or social media shoutouts. I've always believed that respect, not extravagance, is what makes you feel valued. So that morning, I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. I just wanted peace. A decent cup of coffee, maybe a small dinner later, and a kind word from the woman I share my life with. That would have been enough. Her name's Melissa. We've been married for 4 years. I can't say it was always perfect, but I convinced myself we were solid. I worked hard, paid the bills on time, stayed loyal. I wasn't demanding. All I ever wanted was consistency. And for a while, I thought we had it. That morning started like any other. I woke up before her, as usual, made a pot of coffee, took a shower, got dressed. I didn't mention it was my birthday. I was curious if she'd bring it up. Sometimes people show you the truth when you stop reminding them of what they should already remember. She came out of the bedroom around 9, wearing one of my old t-shirts, scrolling her phone. No eye contact, no smile, not even a good morning. I waited a few minutes, then asked, "Do you have any plans today?" She shrugged. "I might go out with Stacy later." Why? No reason. Still nothing. Not even a hint of recognition. At that point, I didn't feel anger. Just this slow, dull realization that I was invisible to her. Even on the one day that should have been about appreciation, even in the smallest way. I didn't press it. Later that day, around noon, we were in the kitchen. I was washing a few dishes while she stood behind me, typing away on her phone. I turned and asked, "Hey, just out of curiosity, you remember what today is?" She let out a loud, sarcastic sigh. "Oh my God, are you seriously doing this now?" I blinked. Doing what? This guilt trip crap. Like I'm supposed to throw you some party or worship the ground you walk on because it's your birthday? I paused. The tone, the words, the total absence of affection. That wasn't disappointment talking. That was contempt. And it hit me harder than I care to admit. I didn't say that, I replied calmly. I just figured you might at least acknowledge it. She rolled her eyes and snapped. Jesus, you're such a F asterisk 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 ing child sometimes. Those were her words. Clear, sharp, loud enough that the neighbor's dog barked through the wall. And that's when something in me broke, but not the way she expected. I didn't yell back, didn't slam the plate in the sink or storm out. I just stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, letting the silence speak louder than any words could. Because in that moment, in the space between her insult and my response, I realized something I had been trying to avoid for months. She didn't respect me. She might have tolerated me, benefited from me, used the life we built as a comfort zone. But she didn't see me as someone worth honoring, not even on my birthday. And the thing about a man who stays calm under pressure, when he finally gets quiet, truly quiet, that's when he's already decided. I looked her in the eye and said nothing. She shifted uncomfortably, waiting for a reaction, but I didn't give her one. Because what was there left to say? She had just revealed everything I needed to know, not in a fight, but in her first instinct. No one curses someone they love out of nowhere, not on a day meant for gratitude. It wasn't just a slip of the tongue. It was a reflection of how she saw me. Disposable, beneath her, easy to belittle. And suddenly, every memory came rushing back with new meaning. The way she used to interrupt me when I spoke. The sarcastic digs masked as jokes. The nights she wasn't in the mood, not because of stress or fatigue, but because she knew withholding was power. She wasn't just having a bad morning. She had been treating me like this in small doses for a long time. But that day, it all came out in one clean shot, raw and unfiltered. On the one day, I expected the bare minimum. So I wiped my hands, turned off the faucet, and walked out of the kitchen. Not slamming doors, not saying a word. I went into the guest room, grabbed a bag, and started packing a few things. She followed me down the hall. Are you seriously doing this over a F asterisk 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 ing comment? Still calm, I replied, no. I'm doing this because I finally believe you. She furrowed her brow. Believe me, I zipped the bag slowly. Believe that you don't see me anymore. Not as a man, not as a partner, just as someone who's supposed to keep showing up no matter how many times you disrespect him. She stood frozen, not angry, not sad, just shocked, like the thought of me ever walking away had never occurred to her. And that told me everything. She was never afraid of losing me, because I had spent years making sure she never did. And now that I was quiet, decisive, done, she didn't know how to process it. I walked out that afternoon. Birthday ruined? No, birthday awakened. Because on that day, I didn't lose anything. I discovered something I should have seen a long time ago. The moment someone curses you on a day meant to honor you, they've already decided who you are in their world. And that version of me didn't exist anymore. The day after Melissa cursed me on my birthday, something felt different in the air. You know that weight you carry in a relationship? That pressure to make sure everything stays afloat, even when the other person's checked out? That feeling was gone. It was replaced by something else, clarity. I wasn't mad anymore. I wasn't even hurt, which was strange. What I felt instead was distance. A clean, emotionless space between us. And I could tell she felt it too. She knocked on the guest room door around 7:30 a.m. I was already awake, dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed, tying my shoelaces. Can we talk? She asked, voice low. I didn't look at her. About what? About yesterday. About all of this. Still tying my shoes, I said, it's not about yesterday. She stepped in slowly. Then what's it about? It's about every time you dismissed me, belittled me, looked at me like I was less than. Yesterday was just the first time you stopped pretending. She went quiet. No defense. No deflection. Just silence. I stood up and walked past her into the kitchen. Made coffee like it was any other day. I could feel her behind me, trying to find the right words. I didn't mean to say it like that, she finally offered. I nodded. But you said it, and I regret it. You don't regret saying it. You regret that I didn't react the way you expected. That hit her. I saw it in her shoulders, that slight slump when someone realizes you're not playing the same game anymore. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. So what now? I took a sip from my mug and looked her dead in the eyes. Now, I'm reevaluating everything. The words landed like a cold gust of wind. Her confidence started cracking. I could see it, the first signs of uncertainty in a woman who had spent so long feeling untouchable in our relationship. She tried to recover. Look, Ethan, I know I've been difficult. I've had a lot on my plate. We all have, I interrupted. But not everyone weaponizes their stress. She blinked. I put the mug down, walked back to the bedroom, and grabbed a bag. I wasn't leaving forever. Not yet. But I needed to create space. The kind of space that shows a person what life feels like without the energy they've always taken for granted. I didn't pack much. A few shirts, a pair of jeans, my laptop and headphones. That was it. When I returned to the hallway, she was standing there, visibly shaken. Where are you going? I need air. And distance. Ethan, please. Don't do this. This isn't punishment, Melissa. This is protection. For me. Her face twisted in confusion. For me? From the version of me I become when I keep letting you talk to me like I don't matter. Her voice broke. I didn't mean to disrespect you. But you did. And not just yesterday. You've been doing it for months. She reached for my hand, and for a brief second, I almost gave in. The old me, the one that would fold at the first sign of softness, almost stepped forward. But I stopped myself, because softness after a storm isn't peace. It's manipulation in a different tone. I'll call you, I said, when I'm ready to talk. Then I walked out. That night, I stayed at a hotel. Nothing fancy, just a quiet room with clean sheets and no emotional noise. I ordered dinner, watched a documentary, and stared out the window for a long time. It felt surreal. I hadn't felt this calm in months. The next morning, she texted. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything. I feel awful. I didn't reply, not out of spite, but because the silence she had been giving me for months had finally echoed back to her, and it was louder than any words I could have sent. Later that afternoon, another message. Please don't give up on us. I know I've been distant. I'm scared you're really done. I placed the phone face down on the nightstand and closed my eyes. I wasn't trying to make her suffer. I just needed her to understand something that words couldn't teach. When a man goes quiet, that's when the story changes. When he's no longer explaining how he feels, no longer asking to be seen, no longer trying to make it work, that's when the relationship hits the point of no return. Because love doesn't end in screaming matches. It ends in stillness. It ends when you realize the person standing across from you has stopped fighting. Not because they don't care, but because they've accepted that the fight was never mutual. Over the next 2 days, the text kept coming. Apologies, memories, a voice note with her crying, saying she felt ashamed for what she said and how she'd treated me. But here's what she didn't understand. It wasn't about that one moment in the kitchen. It was about the 100 small cuts that came before it. The way she rolled her eyes when I tried to talk about my day. The dismissive tone when I shared an idea. The way she gave her best energy to everyone else and gave me what was left, if anything. By the end of the week, I had rented a small Airbnb. Nothing permanent, but I needed a space that belonged to me. No memories, no tension, just freedom. She called again the next night. I didn't answer. I sat on the balcony, sipping tea, staring at the skyline, wondering how many other men were out there in the same spot. Emotionally drained, but finally realizing that silence is a form of healing too. Not all closure comes from conversation. Some of it comes from choosing yourself quietly, over and over, until the noise fades and your worth speaks louder than any apology ever could. A week had passed since I left the house. 1 week of silence. No explanations. No arguing. No dramatic exits. Just stillness. And that stillness? It was louder than any fight we'd ever had. Melissa kept sending messages. Some short, some long. A few voice notes filled with heavy breathing, soft apologies, and phrases like, I didn't mean it, or we've been through so much, Ethan. There were even a few older photos she sent, vacation snapshots, selfies from better days, all captioned with I miss us. But I didn't reply, because deep down, I knew what those messages really were. Not love, not healing. They were desperation dressed up as affection. And that kind of affection, it always comes too late. She didn't love me when she said, I don't care. It's just your birthday. She didn't love me when she called me a F asterisk 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 ing child in the middle of our kitchen, eyes sharp and mouth curled in disdain. She loved the idea of me when I was silent and useful, but she never truly loved the man I had become, a man with boundaries, needs, and dignity. And now that he had finally walked away, now she was scared. She tried calling 3 times on a Thursday night. I watched the phone light up and fade out again and again. By the third ring, I turned the phone face down and poured myself a drink. That was the moment I realized I didn't feel guilt anymore. Not even a flicker of it. And it wasn't because I'd hardened my heart. It was because I had finally understood the truth. Some people don't apologize because they're sorry. They apologize because their comfort has been disrupted. She wasn't sorry for what she said. She was sorry she no longer had access to me. The next morning, I woke up to a long message. Probably the longest one she'd ever written since we met. Ethan, I've been doing a lot of thinking. About everything. About who I've become. I know I haven't been fair to you. I know I've taken you for granted. I've said things I can't take back. But I love you. I love you so much it hurts. I'm asking. No. I'm begging for another chance. Please don't give up on us. I stared at those words for a long time. I love you. Funny how those 3 words suddenly appear after everything else has been destroyed. She never said that when I needed her presence the most. She never said that when I was cooking for us every night, holding her during her anxiety attacks, covering the bills when her job got cut. Never once saying, thank you, I love you for everything you do. But now that I was gone, detached, unbothered, now the words showed up. I didn't respond, not out of revenge, but because I'd finally realized what peace looked like. Peace is not begging for recognition. Peace is not tolerating disrespect in hopes that love will return. Peace is walking away with your head high, knowing that staying any longer would mean betraying yourself. Later that evening, she came to the Airbnb. I hadn't told her where I was staying, but she must have asked someone, maybe even followed me one day. I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there, makeup smudged, eyes red, arms folded like she was hugging herself. I opened the door slowly. She looked up. Can we talk? I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch like a kid, waiting to be scolded. I know I messed up, she said, and I'm not asking for everything to go back to how it was. I need you to see that I've changed. I stayed quiet. She kept going. I didn't realize how much you meant to me until you stopped being there. It's like everything feels cold now. She paused, probably hoping for a reaction. I gave her none. I used to feel safe when you were around, like nothing could touch me. And I think I got comfortable. Too comfortable. You always did so much. And her voice broke. I'm sorry, Ethan. I sat across from her, leaned forward, rested my elbows on my knees. I appreciate the apology, I said softly. Truly. But I need you to understand something. She nodded quickly, eager. I didn't leave because of that one moment. I continued. I left because that moment was the final confirmation that I wasn't loved the way I deserved. She started to speak, but I held up a hand. You can't throw words like that at someone you claim to love and then expect I didn't mean it to erase the impact. I know, she whispered, and I'm not angry. Not anymore. But I've changed. I've seen what it's like to be alone and respected, rather than together and dismissed. And I can't unsee that. She bit her lip, nodding slowly. So, what are you saying? She asked, voice trembling. I exhaled. I'm saying I wish you well. I hope you grow. I hope you heal. But I'm done trying to fix something I didn't break. Her eyes filled. You're really not coming back? No, I said, without hesitation. Because the version of me who would have come back doesn't exist anymore. We sat in silence for a while. She wiped her face, stood, walked to the door. Look back one last time. I'll always love you, she said. I nodded. And I'll always remember who you showed me you were. Then she left, and I didn't fall apart. I didn't collapse in regret or second-guess myself. Because some breakups don't come with screaming or betrayal. Some come with clarity and peace. And in the end, that's what I chose. Peace over history, self-respect over sentiment, and silence over recycled pain. She thought saying, I love you would fix what she broke. But love isn't a spell. It's a choice, one you make before the damage, not after.